The night drive. I'd always heard the stories about driving at night, especially through the woods. The darkness could be suffocating, the shadows elongating, and the mind playing tricks on you. Yet, I had never truly believed in the tales of terror until that fateful night. It was a moonless night, the kind that instills an eerie silence and amplifies every sound. I found myself behind the wheel, determined to reach my destination before dawn. The narrow road cut through a dense forest, engulfing me in a shroud of darkness. The occasional flickering of my headlights illuminated the twisted branches that seemed to reach out, clawing at my sanity. As I continued driving, a sense of unease washed over me. The wind whispered through the trees, creating an otherworldly symphony of rustling leaves. My heart raced with each passing mile, and I desperately clung to my grip on reality. That's when I heard it, a distant, gut-wrenching scream that pierced the silence of the night. My foot instinctively pressed harder on the gas pedal, my mind yearning for escape. But the sound grew louder, closer. It reverberated through the night, sending chills down my spine. The scream was unlike anything I had ever heard, agonizing, raw, and inhuman. It seemed to carry a primal despair, a tortured cry from the depths of darkness. As I rounded a bend, my headlights caught a glimpse of something in the woods, a pair of glowing, malevolent eyes peering at me from the shadows. Fear clenched my heart, threatening to paralyze me, but I couldn't afford to stop. I had to keep driving, keep moving forward. With trembling hands, I switched on the high beams, hoping to illuminate the road ahead and banish the encroaching darkness. The feeble light exposed twisted, gnarled trees lining the roadside, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching for the heavens. But there was no sign of what had emitted that haunting scream. I tried to convince myself that it was just a wild animal, a desperate cry for survival echoing through the night. Yet deep down, I knew there was something more sinister lurking in those woods. The atmosphere weighed on me like an invisible presence, whispering malevolence into my ears. I had barely regained a semblance of composure when it happened again. The scream shattered the night, closer this time, resonating through my very soul. Panic surged within me, my heart pounding against my ribcage. It was as if the sound carried an irresistible lure, drawing me towards the source. My mind raced, grappling with the decision to continue or turn back. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, but an unexplainable curiosity compelled me to stay. I had to know what lay beyond the darkness, what creature or entity could produce such an unearthly sound. I pressed on, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. The road twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the heart of the forest. The woods grew thicker, and an overwhelming sense of foreboding enveloped me. It felt as if I had stumbled into a forbidden realm, a place where reality and nightmare merged. Then, just as suddenly as the screams had begun, they stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. My heart pounded in my ears as I strained to hear any sign of movement, but there was nothing, no sound, no movement, just an oppressive stillness. I considered turning back, escaping the clutches of this terrifying night. But as I shifted into reverse, a figure stepped out from the shadows. It stood at the edge of the road, barely visible in the dim light. It was tall, gaunt, with elongated limbs. That seemed to defy nature. And those glowing eyes, piercing, malevolent, and fixed on me. Fear rooted me to the spot as the figure began to move towards the car. It glided effortlessly, each step a haunting dance. A voice echoed in my mind, urging me to flee, to abandon all hope. But I couldn't tear my gaze away from those eyes, their intensity holding me captive. Suddenly, the figure let out a deafening screech, a cacophony of agony and despair. The sound reverberated through my bones, paralyzing me with its sheer power. And then, just like that, it vanished into the night, leaving only the echo of its scream hanging in the air. With a trembling hand, I shifted into drive and sped away from that cursed place. The road seemed endless, a never-ending tunnel leading me away from the nightmare I had witnessed. The woods faded into the distance, but the memory of that night would forever haunt my dreams. To this day, I cannot explain what I encountered that night. Was it a lost soul trapped between realms, or a manifestation of the forest's darkest secrets? I may never know, but one thing is certain. I will never forget the piercing screams that pierced the night. A chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks just beyond our understanding. Of shadows and silence. The night was enveloped in an eerie stillness as I set off on a solitary drive through the countryside. The road stretched before me like a dark ribbon, winding its way through the dense forest. An unsettling sense of unease crept over me, but I brushed it aside as mere nerves. Little did I know that the night held terrors beyond my wildest imagination. The headlights pierced through the gloom, illuminating the desolate road ahead. Shadows danced and twisted with each passing tree, whispering secrets that only the night could understand. The silence was palpable, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional hoot of an owl. As I drove deeper into the heart of darkness, the air grew heavy with anticipation. It was as if the forest itself held its breath, waiting for something sinister to unfold. My grip tightened on the steering wheel, a knot of unease forming in the pit of my stomach. And then, out of nowhere, a figure appeared on the side of the road. A hitchhiker, perhaps. Their silhouette was cloaked in darkness, and as I approached, a chill ran down my spine. There was something wrong about this person, something not quite human. Against my better judgment, I slowed down, my curiosity overpowering my caution. The figure's eyes gleamed with an unnatural intensity, their features obscured by the shadows. A voice whispered in my mind, urging me to drive away, but I couldn't resist the lure of the unknown. As I rolled down the window, a gust of icy wind seeped into the car, chilling me to the bone. The figure's voice when it spoke was a haunting echo, devoid of warmth or humanity. Devoid of warmth or humanity. Give me a ride, it demanded, the words slicing through the silence like a blade. I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest. The rational part of me screamed to flee, to leave this malevolent presence behind. But something compelled me to comply, an invisible force that held me captive. The figure slipped into the back seat, its movements unnaturally fluid. The air grew heavier, the silence suffocating. I could feel its eyes on me, studying me with a hunger that sent shivers down my spine. Fear clutched at my throat, but I forced myself to stay calm, to keep driving. As the miles ticked by, the figure became more restless. Shadows twisted and writhed around it, their forms monstrous and grotesque. The temperature in the car plummeted, my breath turning to mist before my eyes. It was as if we had ventured into another realm, a realm where darkness reigned supreme. A voice, barely a whisper, slithered into my ear. "Turn back," it hissed, its words laced with malice. But turning back was no longer an option. The road had vanished, replaced by an endless expanse of impenetrable darkness. Panic consumed me as I realized I was trapped, a pawn in a game I couldn't comprehend. Time lost all meaning as I drove aimlessly through the nightmarish void. The figure in the back seat grew more powerful, its presence suffocating. I could feel its icy breath on my neck, hear its sinister laughter echoing in my ears. In a final act of desperation, I mustered all my courage and slammed on the brakes. The car screeched to a halt, and for a fleeting moment there was silence. The figure howled in rage, its form contorting and dissipating into the darkness. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. I found myself alone on a desolate road, the moon casting an ethereal glow upon the silent trees. The night drive. As the night fell and the moon cast its eerie glow upon the deserted road, I embarked on a journey that would forever haunt my dreams. The plan was simple, a solo drive to the countryside, a chance to escape the monotony of everyday life. Little did I know that this drive would become a descent into darkness and horror. With my hands gripping the steering wheel, I navigated through the twisted roads. The moonlight seemed to play tricks on my eyes, casting eerie shadows that danced alongside the car. A shiver ran down my spine as the branches of the trees clawed at the windows, as if desperately trying to keep me away from something unknown. The road stretched out before me, disappearing into the abyss of the night. It felt as if I was the only living soul in the world, surrounded by an ocean of darkness. But as I continued driving, a strange feeling washed over me. A feeling that I was being watched over me. A feeling that I was being watched. I glanced nervously at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see a pair of glowing eyes reflecting back at me. But there was nothing, just the empty back seat. Ignoring the growing unease, I pressed on, my foot heavy on the accelerator. The road seemed to twist and turn endlessly, leading me deeper into the heart of darkness. The sound of my heartbeat drowned out the hum of the engine, and the silence of the night became suffocating. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, standing in the middle of the road. My heart skipped a beat as I slammed on the brakes, screeching the car to a halt, just inches away from the mysterious figure. Panic washed over me as I observed its unnaturally pale skin and tattered clothing. The stranger's hollow eyes bore into mine, sending a shiver down my spine. My hand trembling, I rolled down the window. "Are you okay?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. The figure remained silent, its gaze unbroken. And then, with an otherworldly speed, it lunged at the car. I screamed, slamming the window shut just in time to avoid its grasping fingers. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I hit the gas, leaving the horrifying presence behind. But the nightmare was far from over. As I accelerated, the road seemed to stretch and contort, transforming into a maze of twisted paths. Panic clouded my mind as I tried to navigate the ever-changing landscape. Each turn I took only led to more darkness, more despair. As the minutes turned into hours, I realized I was trapped. The night had become a labyrinth, and I was its unwilling prisoner. Desperation consumed me, and the haunting feeling of being watched grew stronger with each passing moment. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced through the darkness, illuminating the road ahead. A sense of relief washed over me as I steered towards the light, hoping for salvation. But as I approached, the light revealed a ghastly sight. A car wreck, twisted metal and broken glass scattered across the road. Fear gripped my heart as I realized the truth. The light was a lure, a trap set by an unseen malevolence. The figure I encountered earlier, the maze of roads. Everything was part of a sinister game, orchestrated by an otherworldly force. In a final act of defiance, I swerved to avoid the wreck, desperately searching for an escape. But the road disintegrated beneath the car, plunging me into darkness. The world spun around me and the car tumbled through a void of blackness. When I regained consciousness, I found myself lying on the side of the road, surrounded by wreckage. My body ached, but I was alive. The moon, now high,